Hi, Peace with Endo community. How are you today? Thanks for taking the time to watch the replay of this video. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I always check back on those when I'm done. In case you are new to the page, my name is Aubrey Daimler. I am an author and wellness coach who helps women with endometriosis to naturally manage pain, increase energy, and find peace with endo. So I wanted to chat a little bit today about this statement that I heard from another endo sister recently who sent me an email, and she told me that the natural way's not enough, and she wanted to know if I had any resources on surgery. She was doing a lot of things. She has done a lot of things. She's gluten-free and she's dairy-free, and she cut out all of these toxins from her life. She doesn't smoke and she doesn't drink, and yet she's still having 2 to 3 days of excruciating pain where she can't get out of bed every single month. And she's frustrated by this. She feels like she's doing all of these things right, and that were the words that came out of her mouth. I don't think the natural way is enough. So she wanted to know my advice on surgery. So I thought I would answer that question here tonight as well, for those of you who may have thought these same words, because I know this came to mind in my head not even a year ago. It's been about a year ago where I had that same thought. I remember writing a long post about it here on the page about how I was frustrated too, that I had had a couple of super incredibly painful periods and I was considering surgery. So I actually reached out to one of the top surgeons in the world, Dr. Cook, if you're familiar with him, and got the details and got pricing, and I came up with the funding in order for me to have surgery with him. And yet something inside of me, there was an intuitive pull inside of me that was questioning this route, and I didn't end up having surgery because there were two major things that have happened since that time, since I had that thought, since I reached out and made plans to have surgery, that have happened since that time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight. If you are watching me live, say hi. I love to know who's here. If you're watching the replay, type replay in the comments. I'd love to know how it's going with you tonight. So my apologies for the wind again. I was hoping that it would settle, but I hope you can hear me okay. If you can drop me a comment and let me know if you can hear me okay. I can never tell on these live videos. So again, something shifted with me. I had two major things that happened since I had that thought, the natural way's not working. I've made a ton of changes as well over the past 7 years. I've made dietary changes. I too have released a lot of toxins from my environment, from what I've been putting on my skin. So I could totally relate to this endo sister that reached out to me because I was in that same spot. Hi, Carrie from Australia. Sound is fine. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know, Carrie, and thanks for being here. So it was around this time that I had this thought that I need to have surgery again, and started looking into these options, that I came across a woman that does chakra readings, she does energy type work, and I was very drawn to her. I found her on Facebook through one of the business networking groups that I'm in, and she did a reading for me just on Facebook Live, and I connected with her, so enough for me to set up a private reading with her. And when I had a session with her, one of the things that she pulled up after reading my energy was that I have an imbalance going on between giving and receiving. So I talked a little bit about this last week when I did a live about you know, being women and constantly giving and not receiving as much, not taking time to rest and relax, right? So all of this comes into play. She could tell that my energy was pulling to the right, which if you get into the energetic type stuff, that's the very masculine part. The left side's the feminine. Masculine's very much like go-getter, do, take action kind of thing. So she was the one who first introduced me to this balance that happens between giving and receiving, and this shows up very much in the pelvic space, in the sacral chakra space. It's all about giving and receiving, if you think of this in a sexual manner, right? And then also that's the spot that gives new life. So you're receiving in a sexual manner, giving new life. There's always that balance in that pelvic space. So she brought that to my mind, like I need to shift my energy more to receiving. And as I talked about before, this has been a struggle for me to ask for help, to rest and to relax and to get kind of more in that receiving kind of feminine mode. So around this time, I remember picking up Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Your Back. This is a great book. If you've read this one, drop me some hearts. Let me know if this impacted you as well. But there was parts in the book there that she offers up some meditations and some intentions that you can do in the morning. And I started shifting my morning routine to saying that intention out loud, like I'm open to receiving. I'm open to receiving help. I'm open to receiving guidance. I'm open to receiving support. And I very much needed that during this time. Like I said, I was struggling. I was considering another surgery because I had gone through a couple of horrible, traumatically painful periods. And there was just something that needed to change. So I started shifting my intentions in the morning. And it didn't take very long. Once I started doing that people started coming to me. So I started being introduced to different healers, to different people that helped me along the way. So one of my good friends who I went to school with through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, through IIN, she was my peer coach at the time. She offered to pay for a Reiki session with a gal that she saw that helped her a lot. It wasn't something that I had ever tried before. Reiki honestly wasn't even on my radar, so I didn't even really know what it was. I had heard of it, but I didn't know what it was. I would love to know if you've tried Reiki. If you have, drop me a 1 in the comments below. Let me know how that worked out for you. But when I went into this, I had no idea what Reiki was. And it was also around this time that I was introduced to another healer, another person that does energy type work. So this all kind of happened around the same time, right after I started changing my intention in the morning that, hey, I'm open to receiving this help. So these people started coming to me. And through this process, I started to release a lot of the emotional type components. So I think when we're on this more natural, holistic journey, it's very easy to focus on the physical symptoms, right? So you change your diet, like I said, you change the toxins, you change your environment, you work on the stress, but there could still be some things going on in there emotionally that are impacting you. So this became apparent to me as I went and saw this woman who did several sessions. I think I had 5 sessions of Reiki with her. Carrie, Reiki's incredible, beneficial. So many physical and emotional elements. Highly recommended. Yes. I'm glad that you've tried it too, Carrie. So one thing, and again, I was also working with this other healer who does energy work long distance. She does readings. And she did a reading on me and pulled up really the primary issue that I was having, which is all in my sacral space, which is that pelvic space. And she pulled up the past trauma that I've had in my life. So when I was 17, my first sexual encounter was rough, and I never really used the word rape, because I know that's a very charged word in my mind, so I never used that word, but she used that word. She was like, he raped you. And I think it was me identifying with that, that made a big difference. So being young, being 17 at the time and never fully processing everything that happened with that, a lot of those emotions were just kind of bottled up and shoved down and ignored for a really long time. Rebecca says, I've had endo for 31 years. I've had Reiki many times. It can help with pain. I did a meditation course too. I've tried everything, homeopathy, other natural things in healing, even yoga. Awesome, Rebecca. I'd love to know how all of that has helped you. So for me, I think identifying that, hey, this is still a big thing that's impacting you. So this was almost 20 years ago that this had happened. And it wasn't, again, something that I had worked through. It wasn't something that I had felt any of those emotions through. I numbed them for a lot of years. But once I started addressing that and kind of felt through that, and once she identified that this is a big thing, I went back to this woman that does Reiki and let her know, like, hey, I've got major issues in my sacral space. I've got issues in my heart space. And the thing she told me was like, hey, are you open to receiving help for me to remove this from your body? And I was like, yes, I am. Please get it out of there. So I had that verbal confirmation that yes, I am open to receiving your help. I am open to allowing this to leave me. So I had a really powerful session that I remember vividly where she reached into there almost. I could feel, I was laying there flat on the table. I could feel that pain rise up where it's always sitting in my hip on my right side. I felt it rise up and I felt it move out of my leg. It was the strangest sensation. And the next day, when I woke up after this session, I was so sore. I had done a full ab workout. I was so sore to even move, which was so weird to me, right? That somebody had done this and wasn't even touching me, but yet had made such a strong physical impact. So after seeing her, after working with this other energy healer, I was able to release the pain with my periods that I've been struggling with for 7 years for trying all of these different holistic modalities. So for me, it was that emotional type healing, that deep trauma that was going on in my sacral space that needed to be released. So that may be something that's going on for you as well. It's something to address. It may be something that you've overlooked. It wasn't something that was on my radar. Again, I was focused on healing the physical, on those physical symptoms, that I wasn't addressing that emotional stuff. That was really deep emotional stuff. That trauma that lives in those cells. So your pelvic space, those muscles, everything, it's a big storage depot for a lot of emotions, for a lot of past sessions. So that was a big game changer for me, addressing the emotional, energetic, spiritual side of things. And shortly thereafter, so that helped me release the pain with my periods, which was huge for me. I've gone from those excruciating times to now where it's mild, to where I can get through in an hour or two with a nice warm bath with some Epsom salt, and I can usually get it under control. So that was huge for me. And all of this came from doing the energy work. So if you haven't gone into that side of things, if you're still struggling, I would encourage you to look into it. And like me, being open to receiving that. So being open-minded and willing to try these different things, because you never know what may come of them, right? So it was around the same time. So that was the first thing, really addressing that emotional, energetic side. And again, Reiki really helped me with that. So the second part of this was more physical, kind of the mind-body connection. So I connected with a gal that does fascia release therapy. And I remember chatting with her, and she was so passionate about fascia. Rebecca says, let me see your comment here. The constant pain causes lots of stress and anxiety, which will make us tense. Together with past experiences, knowing our pain will come back every month, couple of weeks, for instance, is going to have an effect on your emotional well-being, which will affect your physical. I think natural healing helps us to cope, deal better with our pain. Meditation was my favorite, so I can take myself off. You can do it with candles, soft music, relax, not feel guilty. Yes, absolutely. Meditation has been game-changing for me as well. I notice when I don't take that time, even 10 minutes in the morning, that my whole day is thrown off. So taking time for stillness, and I think that's really taking time to tune in to that spiritual part of you, to your higher self, makes a huge difference. So I'm a big advocate for meditation as well. And you know, as I've gotten deeper into this energetic, emotional side of things and learning about the chakras, I've learned to do some of that clearing on myself. And it's just another type of like daily maintenance that we need to do, you know, like eating well, drinking water, getting sleep. Energy maintenance is a huge part of this as well. Learning to protect yourself. If you're like me, if you're sensitive and an empath and you pick up on other people's stuff, so not only are you dealing with your own stuff, but then you're picking up pain from other people. So learning to protect yourself, learning to manage your energy and release other people's stuff has been huge for me as well. And I think a lot of ladies with endo, since this is such a nervous system type issue, we tend to be more highly sensitive. Your nervous system is going to be on higher alert. So learning how to calm that down, meditation is great for that. Yoga, just doing some deep breathing, getting out and walking, getting out in nature, all of these things help a ton. So thank you for that, Rebecca. Thanks for bringing that up for sure. So yes, the other side of this was the fascia side of things. So as this gal emailed me asking about surgery, one thing to keep in mind with this, and I think one thing that we miss a lot of times, especially if you've had multiple surgeries, is the impact of your fascia, the impact of scar tissue and adhesions. Fascia is like one of the most pain sensitive tissues in your body, and every time you cut in, every time you have surgery, every time they go in and cut, you're going to get scar tissue. That's just your body's natural way of healing itself. So it's important to address those adhesions. So there's different types of therapy that can help with this. So it was around the same time that I met a woman that does fascia release therapy, and there's different types of therapies out there where they get in and they release some of those adhesions, usually going to be like a hands-on type therapy. And one thing that she educated me on was really this mind-body connection with the fascia. So your fascia, again, is that tissue, it lines, it's right underneath your skin, it's throughout your body, and it communicates with your nervous system. So this is a big component with the pain response. And again, if you're getting surgeries, multiple surgeries, and getting that scar tissue, the scar tissue is made up of the same thing as your fascia. So it can get thick, it can get built up in certain areas, it can start to pull on things. One thing that I've noticed as I've had these issues with my back over the past couple of months, and as I've been getting more hands-on type therapy that have been releasing the fascia, that have been releasing some of the scar tissue, is she told me that when things are out of alignment, whether your pelvis is out of alignment or your back is out of alignment, things can start to pull, and the fascia can start to pull, and you can start to get scar tissue. I feel this on my abdomen up to my hip happening. And again, that's the most pain sensitive tissue in your body. So a lot of the pain that you may be experiencing may not be from the actual endo, it may be from these adhesions that are growing. So finding some type of therapy to help you break those adhesions up. So there's deep myofascia massage, there's Maya massage, which is kind of like a more abdominal, they work more with the uterus in that abdominal area to help massage that out. There's the Warren technique. There's a place called Clear Passage Therapy where I've heard ladies having success. The owner of that has severe endo. You go and it's like a multiple day treatment where they go and break up the fascia for you. So that's something to consider as well. Again, this wasn't on my radar at the time, but this has been something that's kind of weighed on my mind as I considered another surgery and just adding more scar tissue to the mix, right? I think if you're going to go this route, if you've tried all of this stuff and you truly believe like surgery is the way, make sure that you're finding somebody that does excision surgery, okay, rather than ablation. So excision is where they go in and actually cut out the lesion from the root out, rather than using a laser and burning off the top of it with ablation. So really seek out somebody who is trained to do this. A lot of the OBGYNs out there are just not skilled enough to deal with endo and to cut things out properly. And when that happens, you're just creating more scar tissue, you're just creating more of a mess. Clarissa says, I just feel pain when I'm very stressed and together studying a lot in seated position. Exam month is hell, after that no pain. Yes, I feel that as well every day, sitting at a desk job. Getting up and moving really helps. I found that to be the case, just reminding yourself like I need to get up and move. Even if you take a break and walk a little bit, really helps. Doing some like pelvic, I've been doing like these pelvic circles to kind of get things moving as well. And again, making time for you, making time for self-care makes a huge difference. Rebecca says, I've not heard of fascia, not sure of spelling. I'll look into that, thank you. Yes, and I wrote a blog post about this that I posted again not too long ago, but I can post it again back in the comments so you can read more about it. Rebecca, I agree, I've had 2 ablations and 2 excisions, excision all day long. Yes. And I remember when I was first diagnosed, I didn't even know the difference. So I'm appreciative to those who spread this information, because this is stuff I've learned from other endo sisters, right? From other large sources of information that are out there spreading awareness. So thank you to those who continue to do that, and knowing that excision is really the way to go. Finding somebody who is a true endometriosis specialist, and not trusting that your basic OBGYN is going to be able to do the surgery for you. We really should be having less surgery, not more. And again, it comes back to the scar tissue thing, right? I think a lot of times we can have more pain from the scar tissue than we can have from the endo. So I hope this was helpful for you. It sounds like it shed some light for some of you. Clarissa says the circle thing is new for me. Thanks, I'll do it. Awesome. Yes, I do that in the morning. I've been doing that and just stretching out my hips. If you can find, for me, I'm struggling right now with sciatic type things, so I've been focusing more on hips. But if you can find like psoas release type stretches or yoga moves that really stretches out those hips, that really helps, especially if you're sitting all the time. Rebecca says, after my last excision to fix a frozen pelvis took 10 hours. I've now had 10 years without surgery and a child. Awesome, yay! Yes, if you are going to go surgery, excision is the way to go. So that's really my advice for you. And just to recap, the 2 major game changes, because I had that thought too, like the natural way is not enough. I was still struggling so much with pain with my periods and frustrated after 7 years of trying so many different things. Don't discount the emotional components of healing. This has been huge, especially if you've had any type of past trauma in your pelvic space, whether that be sexual trauma, whether it be any type of traumatic experience in your life as a child or later in life. Your pelvis very much holds on to those emotions. It holds on in that space. So finding a way to release some of that, releasing it emotionally, and finding even physical type ways to release it. Some of this hands-on therapy also releases some of those emotions. So for instance, with the fascia release, that's that mind-body connection. It's communicating with your nervous system and also releasing it in a physical way. Rebecca says, lavender's a natural pain reliever too. Pop some in the bath with your salts. Yes, lavender actually was a trigger for me, so that could go either way. It is very relaxing. I used to put it in my baths, but it actually triggered some pain with me. So everybody's different with that. Definitely experiment before you go dumping a whole bunch in there. Patricia says, my endosurgeon said she won't do any more surgery. What do I do? Did she give you a reason why she won't do any more surgery? Let me know, Patricia. So yes, my final thoughts on this are just be open, you know, to exploring some of these other modalities. Getting into that emotional and energetic type healing was huge for me. This is what finally released the pain with my periods when I had lost hope, when I was ready to schedule the surgery. Again, something in my intuition told me no, like this is not the time. And as I was reaching out to these people that I was working with for guidance, they told me, you know, you need to address the emotional side of things before you go into surgery. So I know for some ladies that surgery is the way, especially if it's something that's super severe that's going on. But I think for a lot of other ladies, they go in with high hopes and then they don't get the results that they had hoped for, or it takes a really long time to heal. That was the case for me. So I think we put a lot of weight on that with a lot of the information that's out there, like this is the only way, but it's not the only way. Patricia says, she says, I don't have any more endo, but I'm in pain in my lower right quadrant. I'm just annoyed. Yes, Patricia. So I would definitely have a super surgeon. Oh, Rebecca says I'm annoyed. Yes, Patricia, so if you didn't catch the beginning of this, I would definitely watch the replay. There are different modalities that you can try, and I would definitely look into some of these hands-on things that can help break up that fascia, because you could potentially have scar tissue. I know that's a spot for me that's always painful too, is right in that lower hip type quadrant. So I know ladies that have had success with like seeing an osteopath is one other option, or doing some of this hands-on fascia type release. You may have scar tissue going on. Yes, Carrie says watch the beginning. Yes. Rebecca says refused by 2 surgeons purely because they weren't skilled enough. I'm now with an endo team in London and have a super surgeon. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that they didn't just go in there and, if they weren't skilled, and just do it on you anyways, because that's no good, right? So I hope this was helpful for you. Again, just remember that the pelvic space holds on to a lot of the emotions, especially if you've had past trauma, if you've had other stuff going on. I did have an interview with, on the podcast that I was hoping to have this out this week, but that didn't happen. So it should be out next week with a conversation very much on this topic of sexual trauma specifically, and how a lot of that impacts us physically, especially if you don't address it. So this is from one of my fellow authors in the book Women Who Inspire. So I'm excited to share that with you. That should be out on Monday. And then keep a watch out tomorrow. I've got a new blog post coming for the month of inspiration from another endo sister who's had success following a holistic path. So I'm excited to share that with you. Clarissa says infrared light feels good, takes pain away. Is it okay? Yes, Clarissa, I've had a lot of success with the sauna, with the infrared saunas. So yes, that's a great way to release toxins and inflammation in your body. So I'm all for that. Rebecca says, I'm seeing a private specialist for a second opinion. I was turned down by a surgeon through the public health system. I hope that they help you, Rebecca. So keep a watch out on the blog tomorrow. Sorry, I just need some water. Keep a watch out on the blog tomorrow for another installment in the month of inspiration. And I also have the book Women Who Inspire still on special over at peacewithendo.com. It's half off right now, so I only have limited quantities available. So if you want a copy of that, I'll drop a link in the comments, or you can head on over to peacewithendo.com and pick up a copy there to help you feel inspired. The women in the book have gone through so many different types of struggle and have come out through the other side. So I encourage you to pick up a copy of that. And if you do need more help, if you want to follow more of a holistic journey, but you need more guidance, I am in the process of putting together a new membership program called Endo Connect. and it's going to provide you with clear action steps that you can take, as well as with support and accountability from myself and from other Endo sisters to help keep you on track. So if you are interested in that, you can join the wait list. I'll drop a link to that in the comments. I am looking to open that up again next month and looking for my initial founding members, so the rate's going to be super affordable. So if you're interested in that, make sure you sign up for the wait list. I'll drop a link in the comments. And again, this is to provide a little more guidance for those of you that need help on the holistic journey, you know, addressing the food, addressing the different components, as well as the emotional type healing, calming down your nervous system, really addressing a lot of what we talked about today. So I hope this was helpful. I thank you for joining me tonight, and I'm sending you all so much love. If you did find this helpful, please feel free to share it with your friends, or if you want to catch me next time when I'm live, hit the little dots at the top of the video and get live notifications, and you can catch me next time. All right, bye for now.